We are back.
We're back.
We are back.
We're 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 back. The ICA Show is back, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss the season premiere. We're back, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the premiere of the ICA Show. I am Alan, your host, and I'm joined by Luke, your co-host. Luke, I am today really excited about the premiere. I feel like this is going to be the best show we have ever had.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got some good guests, some good games. I think it's going to be a good show all around.
Yes, a really good guest. I looked at the games beforehand, and those games are exhilarating, exciting. So without further ado, let's bring out the guests. David Bilstein.
Hello.
And Gaktug Bass. How are you guys doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm alright. So, before we get into the game, we're going to start with you, David. We're going to start with your game first. So before that, let's get into a brief interview. So David, how long have you been playing chess?
Since I was 3 years old.
3 years old. Wow. I can't even remember what I was doing when I was 3 years old. And I'm dead serious. Luke, do you remember what you were doing when you were 3 years old?
Probably playing with blocks, something like that. Not
Something like
chess,
that.
though. Yeah.
Not chess.
No.
At the end of the show, when we're off camera, Luke has to tell you about his chess story. It's the exact opposite. But for now, let's move on with your interview. Have you been at ICA your whole chess career, or have you recently joined?
Well, not my whole chess career, but for like a significant fraction of it.
Significant fraction. And now you have Grandmaster classes with Alex Strapunski, right?
Yes.
How do you think Alex has improved your game?
He's just made me better in tough question. A lot of regards, I think he's given me better processes for calculation. If you want the most long-winded answer imaginable, there you go.
That's fair. All right. So with that, let's get right into the game. This game that you're playing is against another one of our coaches, Alan Stolarov, not me, another Alan who we can hopefully get onto the show in the next couple of weeks. But for now, David, the spotlight is purely on you. Luke, let's get into it.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're playing against Alan Senior, not this Alan. He goes D4, right?
Yes.
D5, Queen's Gambit, and accepted. So not something, we see every day. Maybe it's a little bit less common than Queen's Gambit decline, Slav, something else. But I take it that this is preparation, right? You're not just pawn grabbing. Yeah. So Queen's Gambit accepted. I would say, and I'm sure you'd agree, you kind of have to know what you're doing as black if you want to, have a solid position. But if you're booked up, very, very solid opening from the black side. So most principled response by white is E4, right? They've given a pawn up in the center to take the center, and now they're going to try to win this back. And B5, so really going for the most direct line. So still we're in some sort of preparation. It seems knight C3 attacks the pawn. We defend, and a very typical theme here, this pawn chain is very brittle, given the fact that white has sort of a lead in development and they can really chip away at this very quickly, and they do exactly that with A4. So trying to break down the pawn chain, of course starting to take, where the recapture will be impossible due to the pin. So after C6, it looks like that pawn is very well defended, but you take everything. Or well, white takes everything. They can take this pawn here, using the fact that, of course, you cannot take back because there's a pin, but you do exactly that. So sacking the exchange, right? So at first it was white sacrificing a pawn. Now it's black who's giving up material. And any thoughts or any comments on this line? Is this something you learned recently, or is this
relatively recent? It's a relatively recent experiment of mine.
Yeah. So of course you have to take the rook, bishop e7, and okay, my whole chess career, I thought the move was, well, if you want to be sophisticated, rook a2. This is what they say in the books. Is like, oh, rook a2 instead of rook a1. There's some justification that maybe you're going to play b3, attacking this pawn chain here, and maybe the rook will become useful sometime in the future on the second rank. But also rook a1 is of course very fine. Black will win the pawn on e4, but at least white is keeping their material. But Alan decides to attack the exchange right back, and I mean maybe it's we don't have Alan with us to give his explanation. Did you get the impression during the game that this was something he had prepared, or do you think this was maybe trying to avoid some opening traps from you?
I don't think he had it prepared, but I would argue it was a very smart decision. I think that he sort of sensed that I definitely had compensation for the exchange, and that if he went back, I'd be a lot more booked up than if he just gave the exchange back immediately, and the position would be relatively equal in both cases. And he managed to pick the line that I'm least booked up on. Also, note that's probably going to change.
Well,
I'm definitely
we'll
booking
see.
up on this.
Yes, always good to learn openings that you've been surprised by. So he
Especially
takes,
now that I said that I'm not booked up on it. Now I kind of have to book up on it.
and now people are going to call you out in your games. But okay, of course, queen takes.
Of course.
And now there's a question of what to do with this pawn. I actually really like Alan's decision, which is to ignore the pawn in the center and try to go for counterplay. He does just that with b3, right? And surprisingly, you also let me turn off these variation arrows. Just one moment here.
Yeah,
I guess that's on Alan's side. Alan, if you could get those arrows out of our face, that would be
I just clicked
very appreciated.
like this.
But e5, yeah.
Yeah.
So very, I think, energetic move, right? Ignoring everything in the queen side, ignoring the hanging pawn on e4, and very typical Queen's Gambit accepted type of move. In the game he takes, and again, very energetic play. I have to say, knight f6. I really like the way you played this. A lot of counterplay on the dark squares here, right? Where if ever d5, you're giving up all of these really nice squares for this bishop to go to, and that's really the whole point of this e5 move, right? Where you're fine giving up the protected passed pawn, but that's fine if you get a lot of dark squares in return. So f3, defending the pawn on e4, and bishop takes e4. This was a very shocking move to me. So again, can you fill us in? Did this was or wasn't preparation? Did you think about it for a long time?
This was not preparation at all. I took stock of my choices. I could either do some exchange instead of bishop takes e4, like e takes d4, queen takes d4, b takes c4 or something. Just trade all the pawns and hope that since the pawns are on only one side of the board, I can hold a draw against the better player. But I wasn't confident in that. So I figured that I figured that my book told me this line had to be good. So assuming I hadn't messed it up, I figured the only other logical conclusion was that the risky thing had to work. And so I went for the risky thing.
Let me ask Gaktug. Would you have sacked the bishop here? Would you have played the exchange? What would you have done in this position?
I would have thought about it, and unless I saw a lot of counterplay after the sacrifice, I wouldn't have gone for it, and I would have just hoped to hold the draw down a pawn, I think.
What are your thoughts on the decision that David made?
I mean, it worked out, but very risky choice.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of those things where it's like, I look at it and I'm like, wow, that classic intuitive sacrifice. I mean, I'm sure you calculated some certain variations. Was there anything in particular you'd calculated, or did you just?
I was expecting I was expecting the line of f takes e4, knight takes e4, queen b3, e takes d4, queen takes b5 check, trading queens, and then I was hoping that I'd be able to win back the b5 pawn by getting enough attacking on it after bishop b4, bring the king to to the center, and then bring my knight to c3 and my rook to b8, and hoping I could get enough attacking power on it that he wouldn't be able to defend it, and that since he'd only have pawns on the king side, I could hold with 4 pawns against 2 pawns despite being down on some material. I have no idea whether it would have worked, but I figured it was my best chance.
Do you think?
Yeah, this one looks tough to hold.
It does.
Yeah. So maybe Alan should have gone for that one instead. But in the game, what did he do? He went. So he got all this, right? You took on d4, and
Yes.
I guess
Then
he maybe evaluated this line and thought maybe he agreed with you in his mind, which I guess makes some sense, right? His king is in the center, not a lot of development. This is the first move. I mean, again, I wasn't in the game. Alan's a good player, as we all know. I'm sure he saw something here that he didn't quite like. So knight f3 looks principled. Knight c3. So I guess setting up some somewhat. What, maybe b4 gluing in the knight? What is the idea?
All right, before we continue, Goktuk said he has a question for David.
So David, assume that assume that he went for the line that you talked about, right? With like all the trading and all the spawns being on one side. Assume that the endgame went down to rook and bishop versus rook. Do you know how to hold that endgame?
No, but I'd figure it out.
Okay. It's not a very easy position to hold. Like I've seen national master lose the position with low time, for example.
Well, I'm planning on having low time, but I see your point.
What was the time situation when you sacked the piece, by the way? I know we're sort of jumping around.
Well, the time control was an hour for each side. I think delay 5, maybe delay 3. I don't know. Maybe delay 10. There was a delay, though.
Yeah.
And so we hadn't spent much time each. Maybe I had like 50 minutes, maybe 45, maybe 55. He had about the same. I think he had more than me, but not by much.
Yeah. Okay, wow. So you were confident going into this end game to hold. Just so everybody...
I wasn't confident, but I figured it was my best chance at this point.
Okay. Yeah, so just so everybody at home is on the same page, we're talking about this move here, around 55 minutes on the clock, calculated and executed in due time. So I really like the energy. E takes d4, knight f3 as we said, and knight c3. So what is going on here? What is this one?
Basically, I'm still scared of queen takes b5. I really don't want to have to deal with that.
Okay.
I've looked at some other options, but really now that his knight's out and his pieces are getting developed, I would not be able to get after that b5 pawn quick enough now that he got his knight out. If a trade happened, and so my choices would kind of move the queen out of there, at which point he'd still get queen takes b5 and displace my king, and he might be the one on the attack, or prevent him from taking on b5 in the first place. Thus, knight c3.
Yeah, so even though this might be, capturable from White's perspective, it seems like maybe wasting a little bit too much time considering, White's king is still in the center, and maybe there's some chance for Black to set up some attack. But he does take. I guess the alternatives would have been capturing here, which maybe look a little bit risky. Was your intention queen e5 check here?
Precisely. Queen e5, knight e2, and then, well, it's been a while. I honestly don't remember what I was thinking here.
Fair enough.
But I'm pretty confident considering that having that pin on his knight meant that his bishop couldn't get out. I might also consider playing like b4 here to just guard the knight and prevent him from dislodging it.
Seems reasonable. Yeah, I could see from White's perspective this might be a little bit of a scary position to see from a distance and not really want to go into. I have to say, objectively, it looks like it should be okay. After b4, somehow it just visually, it seems like the bishop is getting hemmed in. But yeah, that seems like definitely a playable line. But okay, he decides to take, and queen b7. So really angling for this check here, I presume.
That, and after bishop d3, blocking the check, I was planning to go to e7 anyway. I was trying to displace his king. I felt that if he castled, it was over.
Yep, definitely. When you're down a piece and your compensation is attack against the king, absolutely, you cannot let that king get the safety. So queen e4. He does decide to take. Now check. Of course, you have to block with the knight, right? You don't want to play bishop e2 and give up a piece. So he blocks with the knight. And bishop e4, so setting up some nastiness on this diagonal. For example, takes is coming with a discovered check. So bishop d2 is played. And again, it just seems like as black, you need like one more piece here to join in the attack, and it seems like it would be all over. But this is a very annoying situation here, forcing you to retreat. So knight d5. And again, I'm a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, surprised by this move, king d1, not going for the trade. Again, I know this was this game was a while ago, but do you remember again what the time situation here was? What was
he had? I think maybe he had either 35 minutes or 45 minutes, and I had 10 minutes left than him. And he ended up using about 20 minutes on this move, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Maybe I'm overestimating.
This looks like the type of move you'd spend a lot of time on, and
it is, because bishop takes b4 looks really dangerous, because then the knight recaptures, and then next move, the knight is ruining the castle. I get to castle. It's very dangerous looking. And yeah, queen f3 is the computer recommended move and the only way to keep white's advantage. But if he didn't find that, then things would go very badly for him. And it looked very dangerous. So I imagine he was looking for an alternative. And there really aren't that many moves. Can we go back to the position with bishop on d2?
Yep.
In this position, other than unpinning everything, he can't go g3 or I'll get his rook.
Yep.
His rook's in jail because of his pawns and his bishop. The fact that his knight's pinned means that his bishop can't get out, so he's really limited in the number of pieces he can move. If he plays like b6 or something, I can just castle and bring my rook up. So it really is a tough position to find a move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So king d1, probably.
Yes.
He was worried about all the things you were just talking about, because otherwise it feels like you need to do something about getting this knight out of the way to get your bishop out, to get your king out of the way, to get your rook out. So I guess king d1 is achieving one of those things, which is that now you're ready to move the knight. But maybe the downside is that now your king is never going to get safe. It's always going to be in the center. So in the game, you just castle, which again I think is a really nice decision. Again, remember before we were saying, or at least I was saying, black needs one more piece in the attack.
There we go.
It's going to be that rook.
There we go.
The rook is on the way. So knight g3, very natural. Trying to get this guy out, also attacking the queen. Queen d4, walking right into another pin. And now the problem is, right, this king cannot castle away, which is a little bit disappointing for that white king down there. So, So queen d3. Of course, white wants to trade queens. They're up material. It looks like it's forcing a trade almost because this bishop is under attack. But, of course, you find this nice check. King's got to go. Check again. King's got to walk all the way up, which is...
I think it's important to add here that he was under considerable time pressure here.
Okay.
How much?
At some point, he was down to 8 seconds on the clock. I don't think it was yet. He might have had like a minute or two at this point. But
that
seriously, this was...
Took a lot of time. Yeah. King f2, I guess this check is a little bit concerning. I guess you could still
that check would actually be bad, because then the king would come to f3, and after queen f6, he can block with either his queen
How
or
about
his
queen
knight,
A8?
and I wouldn't be able to take on d2 anymore.
I was thinking queen a8. I don't know. This looks scary.
That does,
I'm
but
scared.
I actually didn't see that.
Maybe
and
you're
I
braver
don't.
than me. This
But
looks
there
very
is actually a
concerning.
better
Maybe-
move than bishop c5, queen a8. There is actually just
Okay.
there.
Queen f6.
No, not even before bishop c5.
Before.
If I played queen f6 first,
Mm-hmm.
and he blocked with his queen, I would have bishop c5. And
Or-
if he goes king g1, I would also have bishop c5. I don't think
he
I'd do
goes-
that then. I think I would just at that point
Probably
take
you
on
could take here
d2.
also. Yeah. And yeah, this looks a little bit. This you might even throw in the intermezzo here. Yeah.
I might
this-
go bishop e1 actually.
Sure. Take.
And then I'd throw in another rook e3 intermediate move,
And
which
this is
is
like
very
almost
similar
mate.
to what happened.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. So I guess we can get on to that. So in
Yeah.
the actual game, King f3 is played. That variation we were looking at was after King f2
Yes.
instead of King f3. Check. Now again, I just have to show this because I saw it before the game. I have to show this line. Here, this theme again. Queen a8. This is a very, I feel like, thematic move for this line. A lot of like really big, extensive, heavy piece movement in the QGA, Queen's Gambit accepted, I find. So this is a very aesthetic move to me. Going all the way across, threatening a very big discovery here. So just to show the line, the computer wants bishop e2, and again, this is not my line, this is the computer. Takes, so of course now threatening all sorts of things. Queen takes, discovered check, King f2, and just, I guess the people at home can take a minute to try to find the tactic, or the people in the call. David,
I see it.
Gostu, Alan, you see it? Okay.
Should I go, or would I
Please,
spoil it
please.
for everybody? Rook takes e2 check.
Very, yes.
Knight takes e2. Knight e4, winning the queen.
Yep. So that would have been a nice line. Maybe White can try to hold this, but probably not. Considering the 3v2 majority here, the fact that king is open. Okay, the best line would be to give up the queen this way. But when your king is so open, even if black is only 1 point in terms of material, to the good, this is very, very difficult for White to hold because their king is so open and this queen is going
Especially
to wreak
with
havoc.
the lack of time that he had.
Oh yeah. So someone in the chat did get it, so congratulations. But okay, Queen f6, accomplishing
I actually
a similar thing.
I actually think queen d1 would have been better.
Queen
Just winning the bishop
d1.
on d2 immediately.
Yeah. This I guess also is doing it. Wait, can you go here though?
Where?
I guess queen takes d2. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not showing up on yours. Yeah, I guess queen takes d2 here though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it? Is this a problem?
What about rook e3 check?
Rook e3 check. Well, rook e3, I just go back, right? I mean, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's king f2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's annoying.
Yeah. And maybe I'm
Okay,
missing something.
maybe I was wrong. Maybe what I did was good.
Yeah, but okay. Queen f6. I mean, this looks better to me. Just because you keep the attack, right? In the other line, at the very best, black is getting like an equal endgame, which should just peter out to a draw. But here is where I think you start really, shooting the fireworks. Yeah.
If the knight went to f5, it would have been a little better for him because he'd
Okay.
still be attacking my knight on d5. Computer says
Yeah.
here that rook e5 would be best,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
the game
this
would
would be good.
continue. I'd probably still win just because of the time pressure and the exposed king and the awkward rook, but it would have been about a point stronger, the computer said. But anyway,
Okay.
back to what happened. I still would win the
Queen
piece
f5,
back.
again trying to get an equal endgame, but a point that I think is a very important discovery for a lot of chess players and their improvement paths, which is that, yes, even though we get an equal endgame, the fact that black is so far ahead in development, that still carries into the endgame. And the attack and the initiative actually will continue even though there's no queen. So I think this is a really nice demonstration of that. This is a good move, but when you see a good move, look for a better one. Rook e3, intermezzo, or the other one they say in German. Giving a check in between. King has got to get out of there. Another check. And okay, here just another another computer suggestion. Apparently, it's force mate in 2. I don't know if you saw this after the game. Rook e6 is a very nice mating net, and g6 is the next move in its mate, which is actually very nice. Yeah, the king is in a complete box, which is pretty cool. So this is literally white can do anything they want. It's mate next.
Yeah,
move.
This would really be a nightmare for white, pun intended.
Yes, very nice. But king f8, again, very principled, bringing the king to the center. The king is a great piece in the endgame. Now, again, there are various threats of g6, rook d1, check, and now wherever the king decides to go, it's going to be a discovered check on the next move. So he chooses king f4, rook d3. Now, really, you have to take this bishop and try to hold this endgame down in exchange. Maybe, by the way, this is not trivial to win from white's perspective. Of course, it must be winning for black, but I feel like white has some chances to draw. But in the game, he surely under time pressure goes king e5, which is a very nice final position, a final resting place for the king in the middle of the board. You don't even have to move it to show who won. Of course, when black wins, you put both kings in the dark squares, and this is mate. So you just have to bring the other king to show everybody at the tournament hall the game result. So very nice game overall. Some really nice tactics and calculation, some opening preparation, and unfortunately for Alan, he went down. But I guess I wouldn't be too disappointed if I won a game in this style, or lost a game in this style rather. So yeah, really nice game. Any final thoughts before we move on?
No.
Really? Wow. Okay. Well, back to you, Alan.
I'm sure somebody else has some though.
Any final
Goktu?
thoughts from Alan or Goktu?
I mean, that
Goktu?
was a very good game. I mean, at first I was surprised
Speechless.
Alan lost while he was up a piece, but I mean, David played very well that game, so there's nothing to do about that.
Yep.
I always love seeing those exhilarating games with these sacrifices because just, add spice. Reminds me of a game I played a while ago where I was up a rook, a knight, still got badly mated. I always love to see those games. So with that, we're now going to move on to our next activity. But before that, I would like to take everybody to a commercial break. And this commercial break is about a tournament we will be hosting in 2 weeks on February the 11th. This is the Dr. Osfeld tournament at Bergen County Academies. We're back at Bergen Academies after being in premise for one time. Now we're back in BCA for good. This tournament, as always, has 7 sections. 5 grassroots sections, from unrated all the way to under 1400, where winners get trophies. And then we have under 1600 and open, where players compete for prizes. I fully expect that at least half of the people in this panel will be playing in this tournament. I should be playing in under 1600. I expect Goktu and David to be playing in the open. It's going to be a great time. Just come to icanj.net to find this page under tournaments, and you can register for sections 1 through 5, under 1600, or open. So with that, it's now time for a blitz game, as promised. Goktug, David, are you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready? David, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So I will bring my screen over to the game.
How long is the game?
5 minutes. No delay.
Okay.
I sent you a game, David, if you want to accept it.
Okay. Let's go.
So it appears we're having some technical difficulties.
We were
with
having
sharing the
some
screen. Past tense. Yes. Alan saved the day. Okay. So it looks like we've had a Karo Khan E4
Please don't show the
C6.
computer evaluation. That would.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no.
make sure to
Oh, wait. Oh,
turn
how
off
do
the
I turn it
bar.
off? How do I?
You should still be able to do it. In the top right, the
No problem.
settings bar or whatever, the little gear. Okay, but just recap. If my eyes are serving me well enough, it looks like E4, C6, D4, D5, an exchange, C takes, and then my vision is failing me. Is that Bishop E3? That's a move I've never seen.
Really?
Knight C6. Okay, but we get this position. Isolated Queen's Pawn. Goktuk has to really hunker down and defend David.
Yeah. And if it wasn't clear, in this game,
yeah.
David is white, Goktuk is black.
Yep, so David seems like he knows how to play against the IQP. The square in front of that isolated pawn is always going to be weak because there are no neighbors, no neighboring pawns that can go to C5 or E5 that could kick away that knight on D4. So I would take white here. This looks like a good position, but Goktuk, as we know, tricky guy, tricky in blitz.
I mean, I often play trio, so
Ah,
we have a lot less time than this.
Imagine me playing 3-0.
rooks to the middle, very principled.
No, I don't hate this position anymore. At first I didn't like it, but after we trade the dark squared bishops, it's not like back on h6, which I'm often worried about.
And just for clarity, right, Alan, the bar on the left-hand side of the screen, even though it looks like it might be reading equal, that just means it's off.
It's
right?
off. I turned it off.
Yep. So I don't know why they leave it there, but
Yeah.
that is a dead bar. Don't listen to it.
I think I'm just gonna draw this game. I don't think I can win this.
Do you want to offer
Yeah.
David a draw right
I
now?
think there's an
And I'm not gonna offer a draw, but
I wouldn't take
in an unrated online blitz game. Yeah,
no,
peaceful,
no,
diplomatic result. But
It's
I
very-
think there's a nice line here for black.
it's a very boring game.
By now.
I don't know. I don't like this. It just feels boring. We're gonna play that in mind.
David, it seems as if Goktuk doesn't want to play this. Do you smell blood?
94. I like that one. Or wait, yeah.
I'm a little concerned for my queen right now.
I'm very scared, to be honest, but that's all. With 3 minutes, I'll be fine. But with 1 minute, 10 seconds, I think I might lose this.
Knight's coming back to D4. Now I feel like there must be something for black. Knight goes to D4, back to F3, back to D4. I feel like there's got to be something there. Okay, trading the queens.
Different knight. The knight went to
Is he gonna-
F5.
I'm
Does
content
Goktuk want to
with
trade
it.
into the endgame
Yeah, I mean, I'm content
Let's
with
go
this
for
one.
it.
with an isolated pawn in the middle?
Yeah, but it's
What
not a
wish?
weak pawn. I mean, like, it's
Well,
not
let's see what happens once you trade everything off.
Well, what? Like, the knight stays there. And, I mean, you see, yeah, this is what I think David should play. I don't think he should just trade everything off. I think that'd be a bad idea. I'm not just gonna let him do what he wants.
Why not?
'Cause I don't think that'd be very smart.
It'd be smart for me.
Not smart, but good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rook E6.
I had to calculate because
Always a tactic to watch out for with like a rook takes D5 and knight E7. I'm always worried about that one. Right now it's okay though.
there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing.
You wanna copy me? No? Know how good of an idea that is. No, that's gonna work out. Let's see. Let's find out.
There's only one way to find out how good an idea it is.
Hmm.
You know what? This probably isn't good, but
Take.
actually, never mind. I'm not crazy.
You're not gonna take my rook.
I wasn't thinking about that. That'd be even crazier.
That's too crazy.
There's crazy and then there's crazy.
So small advantage in the end game. This would be a very grindy style of win. Or the opposite, a time scramble, which I have a feeling this is going to come down to 2 minutes each on the
Yeah,
I'm
clock.
playing on touch screen. This could be bad.
Yeah, this is. It's already about mouse speed. This is.
I don't think it's all the way
definitely
there yet, but it's getting
type of
there.
position. Oh, someone is about to get flagged ruthlessly. I'm predicting.
I'm completely with you, Luke.
Yep.
All right.
Already
Six
here, I
again?
feel like is there not a tactic? I guess
Here
not.
we go. We are into the end game. Let's change the music.
Oh wow.
They got music. They must have known we would have gotten into an end game.
We got all of 2 songs. I like it that way. I think that's good.
I don't love this for this.
Hey, that
one.
knight is looking a little bit stuck. Not
Maybe.
trapped, but a little bit sequestered. You might say.
I'll have to give you an
I don't know if
answer
that's the
then.
right word. I don't know. That might not be the
There
right
it
word.
is
but
sequestered.
okay.
No. I think David might lose this all of a sudden.
So, a 10-15 second time advantage for David. Let's see.
Can't hurt.
Uh-oh. Where is that knight going?
Good
Uh-oh.
question.
Knight d7 by Goktuk, I think, was an all-star move.
Maybe. I'll be okay though.
I don't know. I do not. A4. Okay.
What?
Yeah, but E5. And I think that king has a very nice path.
What? What?
Back in the pawn.
I think
All
I
right.
actually-
Let's see
Not
this
a
phase off.
surprise.
I couldn't push because my king was too far.
Yeah, again, that knight. Okay.
There's the alarm for 1 minute left.
Is an alarm for that?
G5, nice move.
I heard an alarm from somebody's side.
Maybe David. I don't have one.
Okay, but now I have a feeling. Let's see. That pawn is gonna
That's
run.
gonna be
Yes.
I don't think so. I think he
Okay.
just loses the pawn now, so I don't think
Ah,
I'm
yeah. Yep.
Maybe.
I just completely missed that move, king.
And no, but now you trade.
Yeah, this is not going well.
This is not going well for David.
Yep, and that is game over.
Aye,
D8.
aye, aye. There we go.
I have to show some technique here.
Yep.
Not much.
Well, not much. Just a little bit.
As long as I don't flag, I'll be happy.
Classic technique. Just make as many queens.
That's
Yes, you
exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
Yep. Ah, and the ladder. Yep. Very nice.
Honestly,
Good game.
Alright,
good
Okay,
game.
so I guess
let's
Alan,
take us back to
both
let's
of us
go
were
back to
wrong.
let's go back to that moment. Can I rewind? Is it gonna let me rewind? There we go. So I think the moment was, let me just get the eval back up.
I think maybe if I'd played c4 here, it would have been okay. Because I would have gotten a fork and won the pawn on c4.
Ah, tricky. Okay, but you also don't have to take as black.
Yeah, but if I don't take, then I'd be trading away the e-pawn, and then I could play g4 and have a square on f5 to retreat to.
Potentially.
All right, so this position to me looks trash. I don't know about you guys, but I was confused. Why play a5? Because, like, I get what you're thinking, but at the same time, the game's being played in the middle, so I
Because the
didn't see
king
a need
is
for
going to
that.
go to e6 and the knight is going to be dead, right? So, I mean, I think you had the time to go b4 and a5, right?
Yeah, I probably should have just gone b4, but I wasn't really thinking very much. It was blitz.
Fair
I would
enough.
say
So-
for white I'd say for white just play the game in the center. Don't worry about a5.
How is he playing the center though?
Yeah, those pawns can only go so far.
Loop the knight around a7, c6.
No, but my king's gonna go to e6 and then immediately to d6
Yeah.
as he moves.
And you could probably cut me off with a5 first. Maybe if I'd played like king e3, f4.
King e3, f4.
It's like
Maybe that's a way to try to play. Yeah. Okay. Interesting endgame, but I guess
Interesting idea.
yeah. But I guess we could move on to
It seems as if everybody's trashing my idea, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Let's not comment any further on a blitz game because we have one more guest that has been watching a game, has been playing a blitz game, but we have not gotten to. So Goktuk, I guess we can officially welcome you to the show. Hi.
hello. Yeah.
So let's get to your customary interview before we start showing your game, which, just like David's, maybe it's not as wild, but it gets really wild. So let's get to your interview. How long have you been playing chess?
since I was 6 or 7, I think.
So not 3. So
Not
pretty
3.
terrible.
It was
Not
not that
3.
good.
Yeah. And from what I know about you, you have been stagnant for a while, but then just like the other players, you had this meteoric rise within the past 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
So I want tell everyone the story of what made you begin to take chess seriously.
And I just enjoyed it more, and I just kept hitting the play button on like the 3-minute blitz game, and I just got better over time.
All right, now tell everyone the real story.
That's actually what happened. I didn't study at all. I mean, I studied openings a bit. I studied endgames, and then I obviously didn't study enough endgames since I couldn't draw the doubled F pawn yesterday. But
Story I heard was a friend told him that he wasn't really good at chess, and that got him so irritated that he decided to begin taking it seriously so he can beat him. Now the friend doesn't go to tournaments anymore, and Goktuk is chasing an M title.
Yes. And that friend, Magnus Carlsen, yes. Very unknown story of Goktuk. But okay, on to the actual
Alright.
chess.
On to the actual game. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Goktuk is playing white. His opponent, who was your opponent? Lucas Chen.
I think.
I think a young player, right?
Yeah, very young.
Yeah, young player.
Which
One
is always
of-
scary.
One
You
of
never
20
wanna-
players.
Yeah.
One of 20 players under the age of 13 to be eligible for the junior prize, which was something Dan and I were talking about. But it's good to have so many young players at our tournaments.
Mm-hmm. So
So let's go.
d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3. So opting out of the Nimzo Indian after knight c3 and bishop b4, but bishop b4 anyway by black. An opening with I think the best sounding name of any opening, the Bogo Indian. Just has a real nice ring to it. And bishop d2. So this is supposed to be like the more solid line, right? As opposed to
Knight d2.
knight d2 or Alan's favorite queen d2. Yeah, so bishop d2. So allowing a trade, which leads to some interesting dynamics, right? Where, okay, usually black isn't taking, initiating the trade, because, well, I'll ask you what you thought of this move, Goktuk.
I was very
Thoughts?
happy to see it on the board.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I really don't like bishop e7
Mm-hmm.
because often it's like so often if they go bishop e7, they'll start playing all mainline theory, except the only difference is that my bishop is on d2 instead of c1, and that makes it a bit more annoying to play. Which I maybe
Yeah,
shouldn't do,
typical theme in a lot of Catalan variations, right? Where a lot of times white is playing b3 and the little tickle of bishop b4 check, inducing white's bishop to move to d2. Sometimes they argue, oh, you'd rather have it on c1 so that in the event that you're playing b3, right, this bishop can go to b2 very comfortably. Yeah, so someone is saying queen d2, the Botez variation of the Bogo Indian. Indeed. But okay, I think the main move is like queen e7. This is some theory. There's a5. I believe there's even c5. I know that that's the line Ray Robson was playing against the Catalan. But okay, taking is, usually we tell the students you don't want to be the one initiating the trade unless you have some reason, because this move is obviously not improving this bishop because it's about to disappear next move, but just the nature of the recapture is improving the queen, right? You're getting the queen off the back rank. You're ready to develop some more. So I like queen takes d2. I guess knight takes d2 is maybe more implying a setup with like g3. But I like queen takes d2. And h6, another strange move. So
I found that move very strange. Also, one move earlier, Stockfish thinks that all the captures are fine, like knight
even
takes.
king takes.
No,
Well,
I mean not king takes. Like
okay,
no, like knight f takes is fine as well, which I was surprised.
Which I guess that's also interesting. Yeah, there's probably some weird setup there. I guess probably that also is, lending itself to a more Catalan structure where maybe the bishop is open more quickly. But yeah, so queen takes and h6. I mean, maybe, Lucas is the player with the black pieces. His logic was maybe that, you give up your dark square bishop, so now you put all your pawns on dark squares to replace it. That makes some sense. So h6, I guess, is in line with that plan. But it also doesn't develop or get the king safe or really anything other than put a pawn on a dark square. So knight c3 develops, d6, and e4. So there's always, some decision to be made of whether to go e3 or e4 to, and how that's going to affect this bishop. e4, I think, is more ambitious, but I think as it became clear later on in the game, this bishop can start to suffer a little bit, given that, right, there's no dark square bishops. You have all the pawns on light squares. Your opponent has all the pawns on dark squares. That, in theory, should favor black, but you also get more space. So it's, a push and pull throughout. So b6. So again, it really seems like, black is going for this dark squared approach, putting all the pawns on dark squares, and you go d5. So shutting it down. And again, I feel like the tension between these bishops is, sort of under the surface, but the more pawns go on one color for white and the other for black is going to have some pretty serious consequences as to the activity of these bishops, right? Where maybe this bishop is going to be having a lot of targets, whereas this one is going to be more passive. But again, it's coming all for the gain of space, which should favor white. So, okay, e5, releasing the tension, and h3. So stopping bishop g4, right? Maybe copying black, saying anything you can do, I can do better with h3. And knight a6. I always like this move, knight a6. The knight is on the rim, but it's coming in to c5. And there's not a good way to stop it, right? It's covering d4 right now. So knight a6, I think, is a nice idea. a3. Okay, don't go b4 and hang a fork or a pawn. Queen c2 stops that, and a5. So I really like the way black is playing this. It seemed like they really have a good understanding of the position. a5 is gluing in this knight, right, with the same tactical theme we saw in David's game, right? b4 is always impossible due to the fact that white doesn't have enough development. There would be a pin on the a file. Oops. Oh, yeah, you do go b3 in the game. Yeah. So do you want to just explain this move, why b3?
Yeah, so I was playing Blitz one time, right, against like a grandmaster, and I don't know, like I had a very similar structure on the queen side where he just like put his pawn on a4, and I wanted to push my pawn forward, but I couldn't because I'm en passant, right? I was like, I don't want that to happen again, and b3 just avoids that.
Yeah, so this is a very typical motif in a lot of like King's Indian structures where, by the way, which is kind of one that we have now, right, with this locked pawn chain. And we've seen this in past broadcasts where the pawn chains, the direction they're pointing is the side of the board you want to play on. So black's chain is pointing this way. Black wants to go like this, right? And maybe like this. And maybe even like this and this. As for white, they want to do this and this in the direction of their pawn chain. So a lot of times black will try to stop that preemptively with a move like a5. And you really, like Doctor, you were saying, you really don't want to let them go a4, which would forever clamp down on this b3 square and also forever glue this knight into the square. At least it's never going to be kicked away with a pawn, because once a4 happens, b4, like you said, can always be captured en passant. So b3 I really like. It's a little bit slow, but this is the type of position where you can be a little bit slow and still have enough time because the center's closed up. Nobody's king is about to get blasted apart anytime soon. So, okay, castles and knight d2. Another thematic move. What was the idea here?
So yeah, I wanted to first put my bishop on e2 to stop knight h5 ideas, because I was kind of scared of knight h5.
Like this.
And I felt that adding more defenders to the b pawn and the e pawn couldn't hurt, because if my queen ever moves away, they become weak, and now I can just move my queen freely without having to worry about one of them being taken.
Yep. So bishop d7. Oh wait, somehow I'm getting an echo. I don't know.
David,
May I ask a question?
Okay.
So what if they played knight h5 immediately, getting to that f4 square before you could play bishop e2? What would you have done then?
Yeah, for that one, I didn't actually have a fantastic plan. I was thinking g3. Maybe that's a very weakening move.
I kind of like this move. This is again very similar to like a sort of King's Indian structure. This is there's a lot of lines in like the bayonet attack where you go g3, and sometimes even like you don't put the bishop on g2. Probably you would put the bishop on g2 here just because it's going to be harder to castle with that pawn already on h3 and this bishop looking at it, right? You don't want to play like bishop e2 and castles and then hang the pawn on h3. But I like this move. I think you're stopping the knight from coming, and maybe you do this and this and maybe even that, and you're playing on both sides of the board.
But
I definitely see what you mean though, that it's feels a little bit loose.
well, the problem is if black here just goes like bishop d7 and then queen c8, it's quite difficult actually to castle ever on the king side, at least.
And maybe you have to go h4.
Yeah, h4, but then that induces more weaknesses. And if he ever puts his knight on like g5, that could be a problem. Possibly. I mean, not definitely a problem. It could be a problem soon.
Yeah. Yeah, so okay. In the game, bishop d7. So it's hard to say developing. Maybe it's a little bit, it's getting it out a little bit, right? Maybe you want to go c6 at some point. Again, it's one of those things where the wrong pawn move can really send this position sideways for either player. Like if you go c6, you always have to be a little bit worried about taking and this pawn being weak or backward, right? On d6, no pawns to protect it. So this pawn structure usually will be staying that way for the foreseeable future. It's really going to be white that's playing on that side of the board. Again, because that's where they have more space, right? So bishop e2 and rook a7. That is on another level. That's a level beyond my. I don't know what. I guess maybe this, right? That's a very high concept type of move.
That's what I understood here. I'm like, okay, I'm guessing he wants to put his queen on a8 so that I don't have any b5 ideas after I castle.
Yeah.
This is what happened. I just didn't think it was. I just think there was a reason for him to do it, because b5 isn't a huge threat, and if you do go queen a8, then all your pieces are quite passive. And so after I castle, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, I guess.
Okay, and just someone in the chat is asking. It looks like black wants to play a4. Is there any way to make that work?
I don't think so.
What we were saying before with this a4 move was all about stopping this pawn from moving, right? So back here, you don't want to let them go a4 and clamp, just to show what that would look like, right? Like this, where you can never go b4. Well, I mean, you can, but if you set it up in the right way. But black is going to take here, and then there's going to be no way to kick this knight away with a pawn. So to answer the audience member's question, back here, you don't want to go a4. Like, let's say they get queen a8 and they go a4. You never want to do that, because then b4 happens, and, well, that's exactly what white wanted. They wanted to kick this knight away, which, if you send that knight packing, right, black is going to have no activity at all, right? Especially because this knight is going to have to go on b7. A fianchettoed knight is very rarely a good piece, and that knight would be very, very sad on b7. There would be really no future for it, right? Because even if you go to d8, it's still stuck, right? So that would be
did eventually fianchetto though.
Yeah.
When I blundered into
See later. Yeah, so castles. So queen a8, again, very like abstract play, very I don't know, high concept by black. I kind of like the spirit. So again, it's stopping this move, right? But maybe the spirit of it is good, but we'll have to it's not always going to be good objectively, even if it looks pretty. But f4, so very sort of committal move, because when they take, maybe this e5 square is going to become useful for black, maybe one of their knights. So f4, I like, again, the spirit. I would 100% take here. Maybe this is like, I don't know, too presumptuous, but I guess it makes sense from white's perspective, right? That this queen just left the king side, so I guess this makes some sense. Right now, there are already ideas of like taking, and maybe not right now, but this looks like you can make some sort of use of the open f file, given that this bishop is really misplaced. So I guess I actually like this move, f4. So rook e8 and f5, which again, very committal, but I kind of like it, right? Taking all the space in the king side. And what was your plan after this? I think there's a very appealing plan here for white.
G4, H4, G5, throw everything at him, like king f2, king e3 maybe, and then put my rooks over there as well.
Yeah. So again, seeing this theme a lot. You have a lot of space on one side of the board. That's where you want to push the pawn. That's where it's your strongest. And I really like this idea. Attacking on the same side of the board. Again, I think that's the perfect way to play against this strangeness by black. They've misplaced their heavy pieces. That's two less pieces they're going to be able to use to defend this king. So I think this makes a lot of sense. So c6, logical, trying to crack open the center when white is playing a little bit aggressively. G4, takes, and rook c7. So, okay, finally that rook did come into play. Knight c4.
That wasn't an easy move to play, though.
What?
I didn't think that knight c4 was super easy to play, because I had to think about knight takes e4 for a while.
Like this?
That knight takes. Because then after I take this b5. It doesn't work, but I just spent time making sure it doesn't work.
Yeah, because here it probably takes.
Takes, I think queen d2 is quite challenging.
Yep.
Because they can take, of course. And after I take the h pawn, they have to, I think, instantly go rook. I think they have to instantly just go rook e7. Like, if they try to take my other pawn or push, it's like plus 10 or something. If they don't.
Rook e7, I think, is actually a very nice move. Yeah.
I missed rook e7 in that line. I didn't see it. I thought after that.
But this even looks very good, right? Like,
yeah, I was thinking, right, like, I'm not gonna. I already spent a lot of time on it. I'm like, okay, I just need to make sure that after I take the pawn there, that no matter what my opponent does, I can just take back on c4, and I like my position, right?
G5 here looks very scary.
Yeah, but queen f8 saves the game, I think.
Yeah, I guess you have to find this, but like take.
Yeah. I was like, I can calculate that later as long as I'm not blundering the material. Then I was I can go for it, right? Because I just made sure to calculate that if he takes my pawn or pushes to c3, I made sure that was winning. And then after that, I'm like, okay, so if he can't move that pawn, the next move I can just take it, and I'm equal material, good position.
Definitely, so good calculating technique there. nice thought process. So we find that doesn't work. So yeah, knight c4, putting some more stuff in the way of the c file, this potential pin. But knight b7.
Yeah, he
So
played it instantly
again,
almost.
really, yeah. So Theon Ketoing the knight, kind of sad. That knight is gonna have a really sad life, most likely. It's not really going anywhere ever. So knight takes b6, and this I think was maybe a little bit too dangerous. Whenever you're pushing pawns,
Yeah.
that king is always going to get opened up, and this is not ideal. Oops, to say the least. But rook f3, trying to. What was your thought process here? Was this like completely out of the blue that?
Yeah, I just completely missed it.
Yeah, that happens.
I was
Yeah,
shocked.
the
I was
pin
like,
is-
mine's just gone.
Yeah, after he played that, was there anything else you were considering that maybe you regretted not playing here?
Just like anything. I was like, anything that just doesn't take, because it's an equal position, but I was like, this feels really nice, because after like maybe move like a4, I mean, a4 of course gives the knight a nice spot there, but I don't see how the knight gets there. Ever.
Yeah, and this is always going to be a target.
Yeah, that was my
like that.
logic. So. I was like, I wish I just done that, but no, I'm down a piece now, so time to attack the king.
This is one of those sort of funny situations where, the book tells you, oh, white has all these pawns on light squares, their bishop must be so bad, which, okay, it's not the best bishop in the world, but also this bishop is like, really sort of cramped, given white space. So, yeah, I think this is actually a very nice line. But yeah, this is an easy one to miss. Rook f3, trying to get something for it. He takes, and king h2. So now, really, this is the name of the game, right?
That's
Kingside
exactly
attack.
what happened. Well, I didn't go h4, but yeah.
Yeah. So rook g1. He takes, which I guess that's good tactical vision. That's a little bit of an annoying one to see.
But I thought it was fine. Like it's objectively apparently not very good, but I thought it was fine. It just wins a pawn, but I felt that it's a bit greedy, right? So he's already up a piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he sees I'm going to attack him, so I feel like you should just try to consolidate instantly rather than going for.
Yeah, maybe like even like this and just run.
Yeah,
I'm out of there. Maybe that's not even the best thing to do, or even like this and like this, if you really want to go full, turtle.
He's up a piece, so
yeah. Just don't get mated. G5 looks a little bit frightening, but yeah, still here. It can't be like lost already for black. Black must be winning here, or at least still with the advantage they had before, even though you get this open file. Queen d4 again is one of those moves where it's like it looks a little bit artificial, right? Like you're trying to trade the queens, but I feel like a move like even f6 here is good.
f6 seems a bit scary after rook takes g7, I think.
Rook, really? And what, check?
Yeah, that's my goal. I was like, I just hope for a perpetual. Somewhere.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Here, I think you run. I think you're going to be okay here.
Looks like it, but
yeah,
I'm about to try to stop that, of course. I mean, it's difficult, but maybe.
Yeah, and then just the idea of f6 being typical lateral defense like this, with rook c7. The other rook is then going to come to the 7th rank in a weird way to defend. But oops, yeah. So in the game, he goes queen d4, which again, a lot of times when you're trying to trade queens, you don't want to just chase your opponent's queen around trying to look for a trade, but instead try to activate your own pieces to the maximum so that your opponent, in this case, we're talking about white being the opponent, would have to look for the trade of queens themselves to get rid of that activity. So maybe a move like queen f2 or something like this would be... Well, actually, not rook g2 here is really nothing, but something like that.
Later it works.
Yeah.
It's a very good defensive measure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I like f6, though, here. Like f6 and like knight c5, and this looks like it's in the right spirit. But okay, he goes queen d4 and f6. Very nice in-between move. Taking, trying to sack the pawn is not working, right? Yeah, you take, king here, takes, and then we're going to see a really nice drawing mechanism here in the game. So in the game, he goes check, don't hang the rook.
I offered a draw here, but it's still winning.
Yeah. So
because queen h6.
Yeah, queen h6. I was looking at this before the game. Is kind of a crazy. This even if it's winning, it's like kind of hard to, it's still very complicated. I think what do they want to do here? It's like
I don't think it's too complicated. I just don't see any counterplay left for white, except for maybe like bishop check. But bishop check runs into queen d2. I mean, not bishop check. Bishop g4 and then queen d2.
What about queen h7 here?
Queen h7.
Queen h7.
Probably a
I mean, he can just take that, and after you have a check, he
good point.
has.
And here it's like you like really barely survive.
Actually, isn't there like a checkmating idea there almost?
Where
Like without that, like without knight back, there's almost checkmate on the board anyways.
how so?
Oh, I mean, queen check, and then the rook has to go back. No, like I mean, like after bishop h5.
Bishop h5. Oh,
And,
you mean check here?
yeah. If the
Well,
rook
maybe
blocks,
there's,
you can just give another check. On
yeah.
F1.
Yeah. Point being, it's fine for black. Yeah.
There's
So
no
that
danger.
I could see why that's hard to play though. But now here's the drawing mechanism we were talking about before.
I think I'm gonna draw here as well because I mean I was like this just to draw.
And you kind of have to take it here, right?
He got very greedy, and
Yeah.
and then he didn't play accurately after he got greedy either.
And it's this bishop again, that one that was supposed to be good considering the pawn structure, or at least that's what the book says. But this is the one that if that bishop is anywhere else, like if it's on, okay, not
it's just
f5,
a
but if
draw.
it's like, yeah, if it's just anywhere not on d7, the king gets to run. Like
There,
here,
yeah,
this is mate.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
so
mean,
now
I
you're
don't
throwing
think
the
it
mate.
works entirely, but yeah, because like bishop g4 stuff, but still, yeah.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, that's true. But here, yeah, you kind of have to take the draw, and then okay, he tries to give checks. This is the point, right? You try to go here, and then it's a repetition, right? We
And
go
if
like
he
this,
goes
this-
to h8, then I'm like I mean that's a skewer, not a skewer, but it's a pin at least.
The computer evaluation here is zeros, at least as far as it's zeros. It's zeros because this is a forced draw. Super Chebraska asks. I'm assuming that's where you meant. But okay. Yeah,
Also
so
here,
check.
I was really hoping he would fall for that line. I was just like, please fall for it, please fall for it. No.
And now bishop g4 is like, now it's winning, right? Because
Well, it's not winning actually because after he goes king I forgot the line. Yeah, there's something.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so essentially after I take the bishop, he doesn't have to take my rook. If he takes the rook, it's losing because of b4, which is the only move. But
What else would he do?
you can just move the rook somewhere else, I think. And it's not like it. That's a better chance to hold because rook versus rook. I mean, maybe it gets tricky. I have a pass pawn, which makes it very difficult, but
Yeah.
I think it's
something
better
like
than
this.
just trading the rooks because if he calculates a bit about trading the rooks, I think it's obvious that b4 just traps the knight basically, and it just win the game easily.
Yeah. So finally, you win the piece back. It was kind of easy to forget that up until this point, black was up a piece. It didn't really feel like it, given that this is the extra piece, right? This Bianchetto's knight, which again, never great. Really, bishops are the only ones that are good there. But okay, now it's just lost because it's equal material. But classic situation of bishop completely outplaying a knight. Again, the worst place for a knight. Bianchettoed like this, it has really nowhere to go. Even this way, those squares are all covered too. This is just completely hopeless. So here, black resigned, and I think for good reason.
Black didn't resign there. We had a lot.
What happened?
I don't have the notation for it because he was under time trouble, and
Okay, might as well have
I
resigned.
don't know. I think we were both under time pressure, but I was like, I don't know if we were under time trouble, but I lost my notation sheet. He stopped notating. I was like, I mean, if I didn't like really care too much about the solution, I'm like, I go bishop c6 and I walk my king up with the h pawn. He can't ever take my bishop with his knight.
Yeah, because then you get protected, pass pawn. So very nice game again. I'll pass it over to Alan or David. Any final thoughts on this game? I'll take that as a no.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for watching this extended, I would say, season premiere of the ICA Show. I hope you guys enjoyed not only the two games, as the two games were thrillers, but especially what we did in terms of making a blitz in the middle. And we will definitely be doing at least some sort of activity like a blitz, puzzle rush, endgame battles, or anything else that either other hosts, other guests, commenters, anything you want to see, we'll do. Just let us know, and we'll make it happen, because we want to make it not just in-game analysis, but live entertainment, live competition. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.
Bye bye.